Good evening to you. Welcome to another Newsmaker Live broadcast right here on DBS Television with me, Timothy Polio. As usual, we go up until 10 o'clock this evening, at which time we'll be playing you the clip that peaked. So please stand by for that. We took a break over the last 2 Wednesdays, and I certainly had to take some rest, and I'm certainly happy to be back in this chair. So once again, we apologize because we are not able to air Newsmaker Live over the last 2 Wednesdays. But we have another broadcast on this evening, and we have another issue that we'll be discussing. Over the last few weeks, we got a major scare in St. Lucia because an organization which has been in existence since the early 1970s, the executive director of that body was going about suggesting that its poor financial position has certainly put its future in danger, in peril. And definitely there was a talk of it probably closing its doors and leaving a number of people stranded, those people blind and visually impaired. Since then, we've had the members of the public providing their various forms of assistance, and up to yesterday, the Libyan Embassy providing financial support. I'm referring, of course, to the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association. The executive director of the organization is Mr. Anthony Avril, and is my guest on this evening's Newsmaker Live. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be on your program, Tim.
How did the SLBWA get to its insolvent state?
Tim, I don't think we can place our finger on one single reason, because the SLBWA has always depended on the contributions, whether it's in kind or in cash or from individuals, from institutions at home here in St. Lucia, in the Caribbean and overseas, as well as it has also tried at various points to generate its own funds also through various activities. And I am sure you can recall some of these activities that we have undertaken.
But should it be in that position of trying to generate its own funds? Don't you think, as was being suggested just a few days ago, that the St. Lucia government should take full responsibility for the operations of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association, particularly financing its various programs?
Ideally, Tim, this would be the thing to do, because the services that the association is providing is critical, okay? But realistically, we live in a country which is really struggling. And so I think we also have to take that as into account as well. At the end of the day, the country has to do the best that it can. One of the, for us at the Blind Welfare Association, yes, we need more tangible support from government. We need more tangible support from corporates. We need more support from individuals.
But if we prioritize, don't you think that we should be putting this in the welfare of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association at the top of our list of priorities in terms of issues that we have to attend to? Because that's what we do for tourism. That is what we do when it comes to healthcare and also education. And something that preoccupies our attention a lot these days would be crime. So why shouldn't, from the outset, the workings of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association also occupy the attention of the various players in the St. Lucian society, and in particular our governments?
All I can say when it comes to this question is a very, very, very good question. I can only point to what happens worldwide. And what happens worldwide is that the human service sectors are the ones that seem to be always trying to catch up, struggling to be high up in the list of priorities. You know, I think countries need to understand that if a country is going to be strong, it has to be healthy. It has to be well educated. It has to be strong socially. But I am not sure in the way that we were oriented that this is the expectation. You know, I am not sure.
But it's a case where we take things of that nature for granted. Because people are not blind, most people are not blind and visually impaired in St. Lucia, do you think that they're not cognizant of what people are suffering with such disabilities are going through?
Well, you see, people are inclined, you know, if something does not affect me directly, it's not my main concern, you know. I think on the other hand, that St. Lucia is also being impacted, but what I like to call the me and me culture. There was a time St. Lucians thought differently, you know. It was like as if we were one another's keeper. But now it's what's in it for me. And that is why you find many organizations, many community groups and associations are struggling even to find enough members, proactive members, you know, because people don't have time.
Who make up the membership of your association?
The membership of the association is made up of St. Lucians. So you have some blind, some vision impaired, and some sighted people, and they come from the community. And you go, you know, you always have to try to replenish it, because you know you have people move on, you know, and people move on to other worlds, yeah. And they move on, you know, and so it's always a challenge.
But do you think that the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association has somewhat been unable to prepare itself for the emerging challenges? Certainly when the organization was established in the early 1970s, you did not have the internet, as you said earlier on. Mm-hmm. More people were likely to basically provide their support to the organization, mm-hmm. in terms of volunteering. Mm-hmm. And there are so many distractions. Don't you think that the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association, to a large extent, has itself to blame for not preparing itself?
There is always the temptation to play the blame game, eh? And an organization, a responsible organization like the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association, must accept responsibility for achievement, and also accept responsibility for areas where it has not achieved, or it has for whatever failures it encountered. But let us look at dealing with the emerging factor. When the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association was formed, and there was a committee before it, the St. Lucia Committee for the Welfare of the Blind, the mode of operandi was very different. It was just when you go to what they call blind school, you make some baskets, and that was that, you know. See what has happened. Where you do not have a blind school anymore, you do not have that anymore. The children are in the regular school system. Now, Tim, these kind of things could not have happened if you had an association which was not doing its utmost to adjust and to adapt. And not only that, but leading the drive. If anyone who if you do an honest analysis of what has happened to the environment as a result of the effort of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association, you would want to give it a certificate in social re-engineering.
But those gains you're making reference to, they would have occurred when? Sometime in the mid to late 80s in terms of integrating blind and visually impaired children?
They started in
Right.
the... Actually, let us take a couple of minutes. Let me point out something to you. Tim, nothing just happens just because only God that can do it that way. Jesus can just speak the word and things happened. Okay? Things in the human experience, you move from point A to point B and move and so on. The process of integration didn't really start in the 80s. It actually started in the 60s when once Anthony Avril, as a youth, he was a member of the Catholic Youth Organization, the CYO. In those days, the CYO was very vibrant and active. And he realized that the benefit of being in a youth group, what it did for him as a blind person. And he felt that he should try and take that and share it with blind, vision impaired young people like himself. So he got the idea of forming the United Talent Club. And toward the end of the 60s, going into the 70s, around he thought of integrating this club so that it's not a club just for blind, vision impaired people and for just some people who are coming to help them, but it has to be a club for young people, including those who are blind, vision impaired, and sighted. And that club went around performing concerts. They had their own brand of what popular theater, like what Checker, Pesh, and others are doing. And it was the first attempt to open up the society. People were surprised. They didn't expect to see blind people on stage performing. And, we did all kinds of plays. And when you had the Castries Youth Council, the National Youth Council, and all of that. The United Talent Club was very much part of that. So as we leave the 70s into the 80s, that kind of momentum was then transformed into other, more serious activities.
So what has happened to this particular effort in terms of the strides made, in terms of integrating the students, in terms of providing blind and visually impaired people with an avenue whereby they could be very creative? What has happened to that?
Well, what has happened to that you have a number of persons who have gone all the way to tertiary education. Some of them are employed in various places in the society. Some of them are back also in the teaching profession. A number of things has happened. The attitude of people have come quite a ways, because we deliberately did not just limit the integration process to 1 or 2 schools. We created more problems for ourselves by insisting that it had to be island-wide. And of course, it grew incrementally, because you couldn't just jump and have it island-wide, But in the current school year, you have 60+ students mainstreamed right across the island.
But considering that there appears to be goodwill in the St. Lucian Society for persons who are blind and visually impaired, do you think that the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association lost an opportunity to really sell itself to the various stakeholders in St. Lucia, so that it would have been able to have some kind of budget in place to undertake its various programs at a time, particularly in the late 90s into the early 2000s, when funding for such entities was drying up, especially from various international bodies?
While funding was drying up from various international bodies, things was also getting tighter here. And
So that calls for creativity.
well, yeah, but don't forget, St. Lucia went through some major upheavals. Back in the from the 1970s going up to the 80s. Then you get into the 90s. We went through independence. We went and some of the difficulties that we had, the struggles, the struggles about the banana industries, and all of these things impact the whole of the society, Tim. The whole of the society. The St. Lucian society was being transformed from child to man and womanhood. And we are not there yet.
What blame does the association bear for its current cash-strapped position? Any at all?
I think one of the blames that we have, for example, we have the eye care program, and we operate it as a social entity rather than a business. So maybe that's a blame. The doctors that we bring in to provide services that you would have had to travel to Washington, Toronto, London, wherever to get them, and that these services are given to people free. That is poor management.
You're being serious, or you're being facetious?
Well, this is what I'm being accused of. Is very bad management. Okay, very bad management. Not enough planning ahead and things like that. So that's poor management, isn't it? The thousands of children whose eyesight has either been restored or arrested the deterioration of those sight. Poor management. Really poor management. Those children would have given an opportunity for life. It's poor management. Because for you to succeed, you have to be able to show, I invest $1 and I made $5, I made 20. That's success. That's what the world calls success. But if you are investing in people to give them the tools for life, it's poor management. It's poor management. So these are the blames that Anthony Averell must take.
And what is the source of that blame? Is it coming from sections of the community? It is coming from within your organization?
I think, Tim, it comes from within. Like this morning, for example, I was listening to What Makes Me Mad. One of the persons who have benefited the most, he saw the need for an investigation into what the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association does with the money that it receives from the general public. And I sat and I listened and I said, very, very well. There should be an investigation. Perhaps it will conclude that some people have gotten too much, and whereas others have not gotten enough.
But in a nutshell, how does the association account for the funds that are contributed to its well-being, the subvention from government and other assistance coming from overseas?
Well, I can say to you that the accounting system of the SLBW is quite solid. Otherwise, we would not be able to handle things like funds from EU and all of these agencies. It is. And there are all kinds of checks and balances. There is no system created by man which is 100% perfect. So I'm not talking about we are absolutely perfect, but I can tell you that we have been able to stand to all kinds of scrutinies and evaluation, international, regional, and national.
At what point in the life of the association did you realize that you just did not have enough money in the kitty to successfully run the operations of the SLBWA?
That's always in the forefront of our mind, you know, because you always have to what you call multiplier, jiggle a little bit here, jiggle a little bit there, so that we always, this is something that you wrestle with every day.
But at that juncture, you were not in panic mode, as is the case now.
Well, you see, we have got to panic modes before. It hasn't happened for a while, you know. But what happens now is that we went from a project to another project, and that the understanding, and that's one of the problems, the understanding that the commitments and what have you, there was a tone, like a U-tone, you know, and you had to take that shortfall, which was definitely not anticipated. You could not have anticipated.
Commitments made by what? By international
agencies, yes.
Why do you think you're not able to fulfill the promises made?
Because of their own budget cut situation. Most people who deal with international agencies will always tell you that, you know, when the going gets rough, then if they're going to shed, they will be shedding those that they are supporting, you know, and that's a reality. That's a reality. I think also in the society, I think the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association has done so well that it was also being taken for granted by the general public. It's like, you know, it can take care of itself, you know.
Do you think that the association has itself to blame for creating the impression that it was in a position to sustain itself?
I think one of the association's one of its blame point is that it tries its hardest to sustain and help itself, you know, and it tries to inculcate that into its clients, that you need to try to help self, to do the best that you can. You cannot just rely totally on other people.
And the association has reached a particular stage now, which is it cannot help itself anymore?
The association had reached a stage where it needs more help to take it to the next level. The stage that it is at, it's the stage that with many companies with a lot more resources are also experiencing, you know. When I listen to government's pronouncements, you also hear that as well, you know. The world has reached a stage, and the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association is part of that world environment.
But any government owes it to the people, especially the poor, dispossessed, and vulnerable, in this case blind and visually impaired people, to ensure that they are provided with this cushion, with this buffer, that at least the basic services that they require to ensure that their living standards would not deteriorate, those are provided.
Yep. A country owes it to its citizens, but the country is made up of people. So as a people, as a society, this is a responsibility which must be shared.
What has happened over the last few days since there's talk of the SLBWA shuttering, ending its operations, and leaving blind and visually impaired people in St. Lucia without its various and important services?
Well, just a slight correction. The operation of the SLBWA is not only just impacting blind and visually impaired people, it's impacting the community. Because don't forget, there is a strong prevention component to the service. Okay? So it's impacting the society, and that if it is no longer available, the society will fill that gulf, that gap. Okay? Since for the last few days, the last couple of weeks, and so on, I must say there is quite a response from individuals, from some institutions. Yes, you have some negative. As I said, the negative is the larger side of the negative is coming from within the association itself, you know. And obviously, people have a right to question and to, I'm talking about the general public out there, you know, certainly. But I am surprised with the level of support and understanding which is in the community. I suppose is in times of crisis, you know what people are thinking. The folks used to say is when you are in trouble, you know who your friends are, you know, and my spirit is lifted by the way that people are coming forward and saying, you know, what can we do? What about this? What about that? You know, they will send you this link, send you that link, call, make suggestions, and let me give you a few examples. One person called and said, look, I am committing $50 a month. And this is a pensioner, you know. $50 a month, but I want to do more than this. I want you to send me 100 of your covenant forms, because we do have that. And I'm committing that I am going to get people to commit. I'm not saying that everybody will commit $50 or what have you, but that is my contribution. And another person came up today and also made a pledge of $50. A young man, vision impaired, he only had $5, and he came and says, Mr. A, I really feel, you know, whatever, I have only $5. Can I donate $1? You know? And I said, son, this dollar you are offering, it's worth many dollars. Thank you for the thought. You know? So you have it. There are people who understand and they are prepared to do what they can. And I want to take this opportunity to thank them, you know, to thank them. In the social media, you have quite a lot of people expressing themselves. Yes, but there is quite a good discourse as well. Because what I am, you know, really being happy to see is the level of understanding. There will always be finger pointing, blames, and so on, but the level of understanding what we are up against, and that is good. That is very good.
You're watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television with me, Timothy Polio, and my guest is Executive Director of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association. When we return, we'll be reacting to the decision by a friendly government to provide assistance, financial assistance, to the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television. My name is Timothy Polio, and my guest is Mr. Anthony Avril, the Executive Director of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association. Yesterday, there was a ceremony in the office of the Prime Minister where the association received a cash donation from the Libyan embassy. Tell me about this. How did this come about?
Well, this went very, very well. You had the Minister of External Affairs, Honorable Sarah Claude Beaubray, who was instrumental in contacting the Libyan embassy, and the acting Prime Minister, Mr. Moutut, Honorable Moutut, and of course your committee was well represented. The media was well represented there. And it was a good exchange and a good discourse. The Chargé d'Affaires from Libya promised to do everything they can to provide further assistance. And the government, the two ministers, they gave an undertaking that they will do everything they can to ensure that some assistance would come, not only from outside, but also from within, from government, to help the association. There was a lot of expression of appreciation of the association's effort through the years. And that was good. I think a strong message was communicated to the public.
In addition to this, we heard that the Libyan embassy will be paying the salary of an individual whose responsibility will be to come up with various fundraising initiatives on behalf of the association.
Now, I need to make a clarification. Certainly, yes, it would start with the association, but this person was requested to assist NGOs because it was felt that NGOs can do with help in this area. Okay. Naturally, the association situation triggered it, so that, the request was made by the Mrs. Beaubray to help NGOs. The Chargé d'Affaires said it will be to help the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association, because of course that's where his mind was at that point, and we do welcome that. But I want to make this clarification from what I was told.
What has happened to the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association as far as its ability to engage in fundraising initiatives? I think it stood out, let's say in the 80s or thereabout, with in hosting several initiatives such as country and western competition. You had various blind and visually impaired artists coming to St. Lucia to perform and to raise funds on behalf of the organization. Yes,
so you had a combination blind, visually impaired, and regular artists as well. The 80s and 90s also, and into the 2000s. One of the problems, we realized that for you to make money from these shows, you need to have very heavy sponsorship, and it would not pay itself from gate receipts, and that is the problem that we encounter. And then we
so issues relating what to travel, the cost of travel.
Yes,
accommodation.
If you are bringing international artists, you really want to know that they are fully covered. The travel, the accommodation, everything that relates to them, so that it will ease the stress on what you are going to take from gate receipts, because you are limited in terms of how much you can charge. This is a small society, small economy. Okay. It's not like you are in Las Vegas or one of these places. And so it would appear that you've made a lot of money, but you really have not made money. You may take, 150,000 to 200,000, but by the time you cover all the various costs, you you wonder whether it's worth the while. What is there for you to do the services that you want to support, and people, as far as they are concerned, you made huge amount of money.
So how does the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association plan to raise its own funds, in addition to the assistance that will be coming from other entities and agencies?
Well, one of the initiatives that we are taking is what we are calling a National Dollar Drive, and that this, we think it's quite a good initiative, and there are several facets to it. People would be invited to make covenances with the association. People will be invited, corporates will be invited to assist in the way that may be most suitable to them. We're exploring all kinds of avenue with that initiative.
The government subvention, it's to the tune of how much?
The government subvention, the REC subvention, let me say, is when you put all the bits and pieces together, it's less than 100,000.
Annually, right?
Yes, yes, it's less than 100,000. But this is a matter which is being, we are engaging them with.
Ideally, how much you think you would want from the government to put you in a better position as far as financing your operations?
I wouldn't want to start, quoting figures at this point, Tim. It has to be based on our budget and that kind of thing. So this matter...
Because the reality is, you were telling me a few days ago that the organization needs at least $60,000 a month.
Yes, but that is for the basic operation. Because you see, that $60,000, Tim, does not include other services which we did in the past. Like, in the past we assisted people with homes, building of homes for people who are blind and vision impaired. Some of the very people, Tim, who are shouting all kinds of names at Anthony Avril are living in some of these homes that was built for them. And some of these homes now are in need of repairs. And the Blind Welfare Association does not have the fund to be able to respond to those calls. So Anthony Avril is a bad wolf.
Amidst the criticism being leveled at you, how long you hoping, or you're willing to continue to serve at the helm of that entity? You have been there for a little over 30 years now.
Tim, to be honest, I do not know how long I'm going to be on the SLBWA stage. And if I listen to my family, I would step off now. So
but what is keeping you at the helm?
What is keeping me? I would like to step off after we have gone through this crisis we are in. I think I owe it to me and to the association, because I still have some energy left. I am still quite capable. Thank God, he has been pretty good to me when it comes to health, mentally and physically. And I am asking him for spiritual health as well, So, but they need not worry, Tim. They need not worry. My days are limited at Blind Welfare Association.
At least what? Within the next year?
I don't know. I don't know whether it is a year, months, couple years. I do not know. But I can tell you it's limited.
But why have you reached that particular position?
You don't want to overstay your welcome, Tim. People feel that they have had enough of you. They have had enough of you. You're no longer needed. You're no longer needed. Tim, when I was a teenager, I listened, there was an interview with the great Gary Sobers. And he was asked, there was a gentleman called Brian Johnson, a renowned cricket commentator, British. And he says, Gary, you are, let's say, the uncrowned king of Barbados. How do you feel about that? Gary paused and said, Brian, I am enjoying it while it lasts. Because I tell you, the time may well come when I'll walk the streets of Barbados and I won't even be recognized. And that stuck with me. From that, I was about in my late teens, and I understood what he was saying. What people, it's not really you, the person, is what you represent. And when you get to that point, when what you represent doesn't matter, then that's it. You, the person, doesn't mean that much. Does not mean that much. So we do what we do, not because of the accolade and whatever. We do what we do, it has to come from within you. From within. You make your contribution to the best of your ability. Don't expect any good returns, because it will not come, definitely not come from those you help, but it's not going to be lost. Good will always be good, and everyone must always be prepared to contribute to good, regardless what comes your way.
How confident are you that once you decided to give up the position of Executive Director of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association, that you'll be finding a suitable successor to take over the reins?
Tim, if the Lord says, Anthony Averill, it's time to go home, you think people will worry about Anthony Averill? No. They will come together and they will do what they can. So it's not about Anthony Averill. Anthony Averill is insignificant. He's just that little old man trying to help. He's not important at all. Not about him. Who cares about Anthony Averill? No. So, it's not about Anthony Averill, Tim.
What have you gained from being the Executive Director of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association?
Wow.
What has the job brought to you?
It has brought understanding of people. It has helped me to understand the humanity. You know, you have good people regardless of their experience, and you have people who are not so good regardless of their experience. You have people who are good in spite of the fact that they have lost sight. You have people who are not so good in spite of the fact that they have lost sight. People are people. And so I have learned a lot, Tim. And for that, I give thanks, to God and to so many people who have helped me along the way.
What is the defining moment for you as Executive Director of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association?
I haven't even thought about it. There has been so many. So many. Well, what is for me may not be for someone else, you know. So many, Tim. As Executive Director of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association, Tim, there was a time I would pick up the phone and call, whether it's an institution and what have you, and they'll say, tell him I there. You know, of course you hear that in the background. You feel bad, but you don't It's as if you didn't hear that, you know. There was a time, let's say, for example, going to Grosile or Onslow Ray or wherever, people will say to you, "Ou avec ça qu'a fait ici? Sorti là ou qu'a pris un pied moun." You know? And now, what you see and what you hear, people have a totally different perspective of blindness and people in the society. And that is good for me. It's good for me, you know. So my good is not by fat bank account, because I don't have that. In fact, when I get my little salary, it disappears fast. Okay, so that's not it. But I knew I had committed myself to doing whatever I can to change the perception of society, St. Lucian society, with regard to people who are affected by blindness, vision impairment, and, believe it or not, other disabilities. And I am leaving with the thought that, Tony Avril, it's been a long, hard road. You have fought a good fight.
Tell me the life of a blind person in St. Lucia. What does it entail? What does it signify to be blind?
Well, blindness in St. Lucia, you are always reminded of it. You are reminded of your blindness at home. Yes, at home. You are reminded of it in community. You are reminded of it wherever you are, at your workplace. You are always reminded of it. And that spells out your life. You as a blind person, you are always teaching. Because it's still something which baffles people, you see. While I have seen tremendous change, but we still have some ways to go, you know. But what we need to do, team, is to hang on in there. We need not to take the other route and say, well, look, it has to be our thing. The Blind Welfare Association must only be for blind people. We would be making a huge mistake. A huge mistake. I believe in the true spirit of inclusion. And that spirit tells me that a blind or vision impaired person should be able to access a job not only in a blind place, a place for the blind, but anywhere in this society of ours. You know? And that's the point. That's my dream, that St. Lucia and the Caribbean can get to. And we need to continue to strive to get there. And people who are affected by blindness and vision impairment themselves, they need to understand that.
What do you envisage happening, God forbid, if the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association ceases to exist?
Tim, I don't even want to contemplate that. I do not want to contemplate that because I, as a St. Lucian, I think all of us must do whatever we can to ensure that that does not happen. You know, there is an old saying: you get back what you communicate out there. If I take time to think about what it will be like if there is no blind welfare, I will be sending out the wrong kind of message out there. My focus is that the SLBWA will survive. It doesn't necessarily whether Anthony Avril is there or not. So that's what I'm focusing on.
What is the morale of your staff?
At the moment, it's not so high. Because when you have a problem, people sort of tuning on themselves. You have little cliques and people sort of blaming each other, and all kinds of things are happening. So no, for me, I don't even, sometimes you feel that being a leader is a very lonely, very, very lonely place. You can't be everything to everybody. And everybody is focused on their agenda. No, I shouldn't say everybody, but most people focused on their agenda. What's in it for them? And not just the staff, clients, and, that's the reality. That's the reality. So,
But do you think that the organization will come out of this successful? Being successful?
I think it will, Tim. I think it will come out of it. I think reality will kick in. Yes, you have some people who feel that they have the answer, they can do this and they can do that, and so on. You have all kinds of schemes and stuff going on, and what have you. All kinds of promises are being made, but that is the human thing, okay? But reality will kick in. Reality will kick in. That's what I think. Well, it has to. It has to. It would be a terrible mistake if it does not come out of it.
You're watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television. We'll be back in just a moment with your calls. Once again, my guest this evening, Mr. Anthony Avril of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We'll put the telephone number on the screen right now so that you can call with your questions and comments for my guest. Once again, he is Mr. Anthony Avril, Executive Director of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association. As you've been hearing over the last few weeks in St. Lucia, the organization has been going through some serious financial problems, but over the last few days, we've been hearing from various individuals. Also, as late as yesterday, the Libyan embassy in St. Lucia provided the association with a check for EC $5,000. And you've been hearing from Mr. Anthony Avril that other people, other entities, other institutions have also been pledging towards the upkeep of the SLBWA. Once again, we take your calls right now on the program Newsmaker Live. We have our first call on line. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for calling the broadcast. You're now on the air.
Hi, good evening, Timothy, and good evening, Mr. Avril. How are you doing?
Yeah, good evening to you, sir.
Thanks. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to hear you on the phone, but I have a little difficulty.
Okay, but bear with us. Continue.
Yeah, anyway, I called just to say hello to Mr. Avril, and although I met him today, I really want to say that he has really been working hard with the Blind Welfare School and all the other folks there who contribute. And I know he's going through tough times. The school is going through tough times. But I want to wish him well. I know he has worked hard over the years. From the time I came back to St. Lucia, I was living very close to the Blind Welfare Association in St. Susie, and I've always really wanted to support the blind welfare and those people with blindness. When I had my radio station, and by now you know who this is, Timothy.
Yeah, Mr. Ellis.
I had a program specially designed for the blind, where we had people even from around the Caribbean linking up. Mm-hmm. And I really would like to appeal to the public, even if they can donate $1. We have enough people in St. Lucia that can keep the Blind Welfare Association going. And I really want to wish him well. I know you've been poking at him as to when he'll give up. And he said the good Lord will give him that time when it's due. But I want to hope that the Blind Welfare School could continue, because I know while some of us don't suffer with blindness, we have to really put our efforts to keep those with blindness getting the treatment and getting the support. So I want to wish you well, Mr. Averill, and I want to wish all the hardworking people at the Blind Welfare Association. And I know the public in St. Lucia will come forth. They will come forth and they will keep the school open. Don't worry, Mr. Averill. Good night.
Thank you so much for calling, sir.
Thank you, sir.
What's saying,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Averill? How do you respond?
Well, I want to thank him for this very positive comment and support. Mr. Ellis has been a strong supporter.
We have a call. Hello, good evening. Go ahead with your contribution.
Good evening.
Good night to you, ma'am.
It has been said that God has given everybody a talent. Now, I remember there were blind people, individuals, right, who used to go out on the streets and they would play like outside the supermarkets and whatnot. And they were well received by the crowd, okay? Now, what I am thinking of is to somebody in authorities, government or whatever, get a hall where all blind people could go, and maybe like Peace Corps volunteers or so from overseas could go to that hall, meet these people, find out what their talent would be. They would know about their talent through observation. And then they could, sectionize these people, and whoever would be better in music, put them one side. Whoever would be better in acting, put them in one side. And whatever those talents, train them, bring out those talents, and have concerts, even like every week or every month or whatever. In whatever those talents are for shows and whatnot. And that would generate much income for them, help them to be, financially more stable. And the St. Lucian crowd would appreciate this kind of thing. They would go for it, and I think that would really generate some form of self-employment. This is my contribution.
Thank you so much.
I wish them all the best.
Thank you so much. Mr. Averill, will that work? Will that sustain the association over an extended period in addition to the subvention and other forms of assistance?
Well, while she was speaking, Tim, a number of thoughts was evolving in my mind, and because just recently I was writing a paper that we are sending to a government ministry, and one of the comments we made on that paper is for us to include in the education program vocational pathways, what I call vocational pathways, because one of the areas where we probably have faltered in our educating of our children, we need to do more to educate them for life and to prepare them for life. We have been talking about the challenge to employ people. If we take this challenge seriously, we need to address it from the schools, so that we create that kind of vocational pathway. We strengthen our assessment capabilities, and we do more with vocational training for people, blind, vision impaired, those with disabilities, and so on. And
we have another call. Good evening.
Good evening, Tim.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Good program, sir. Mr. Averill, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, sir.
I just want to let you know my grandmother by father did die. She was blind. I cannot imagine a blind man like you. He's doing a very good job, man. I don't know how you do it. And then I'm telling you, keep it up, buddy. And then the other thing I have to say, this guy, whoever that broke into the Blind Welfare Association is very sick. Very, very sick guy. And I'm telling you, keep it up. And my support, you have my support. I will come and contribute something, okay?
Thank you,
Have a
sir.
blessed night.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let me piggyback on the comments made by the last caller in terms of the headquarters of the association being burglarized. I think it was the discovery was made on Monday morning when the employees went to work.
That's right. That was a big shock for us, you know, because and the way it happened, they apparently, because we do have an alarm system at the SLWWA, but we do not know whether it was jammed or if the company says that the sensors on that particular door they went through apparently did not respond. But they got in and they visited a number of offices and rooms, and it seems they were looking for something. I understand, I saw a note from the administrator that says that one of the persons, teachers from the MDVI room said that they walked away with some equipment. I think some computer, some camcorder, and some other equipment.
Good evening. Thanks for calling the program. Go ahead with your contribution, caller.
Good evening, team.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
It's really mind-boggling to know that somebody have the heart to break into the Blind Welfare Association school. Team, some of us do not have a conscience. We'll steal even from our mother. But I think we cannot let the Blind Welfare Association go down like that. I personally have benefited from the Blind Welfare Association. I had a daughter who had problem with her eyes. At this juncture, at this time, she would have been in her 40s, around 43 years. I am pledging to support the Blind Welfare Association. I need the account number so that I could donate monthly.
Okay, what you can do? I don't know if you have the
yes,
account
we
number.
have the account
yeah,
number.
What's the account number?
Yes, it's 260 8772. 260 8772. It's First Caribbean Bank.
First Caribbean.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
All right, thank you so much for calling, sir.
Okay.
Okay. But this is not the first time that the headquarters of the association has been burglarized, right?
No, but it has not happened for some time now. And team, when that's one of the problems of providing services.
My apologies. Hold on again. We have another call. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, ma'am.
Yeah, Mr. Well, I just want to let you know. Good evening, team, as well.
Good evening, sir.
I just want to let you know that I know you're feeling down, but I want to let you know to keep strong and keep holding strong. Also, I want to let the government know that the Blind Welfare Association has been doing a lot of work in sports as well. And I'm not sure if you're aware, team, of the blind cricket.
Yes, I'm aware.
And it has done a lot for blind and visually impaired persons. For example, they had someone I know of who was contemplating suicide, and the blind cricket saved his life. And that is an amazing story. That is something that blind cricket has done. And sports on a whole have done for blind and visually impaired persons. You know, so supporting the Blind Welfare Association, the blind cricket is one of those programs that have done a lot for the association, and it will do a lot more in generations to come. You know.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you, sir.
We continue to take your calls. Once again, this is Newsmaker Live on DBS Television. My guest this evening, Executive Director of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association, Mr. Anthony Averill. You have another call? Good evening. Hello, good evening.
Hello?
Hi, good evening to you, caller. Go ahead, please. Okay, there's a terrible feedback. Turn down the volume on your television set. Okay, we'll have to say goodbye to this call. Let's see if we can get another caller. And as usual, please, I'd like to implore our viewers, when you're calling in, turn down the volume of your television set because it affects the quality of the broadcast. You cannot be listening to yourself and trying to make a contribution at the same time. It's very confusing. And my guest, once again, Mr. Anthony Averill. Mr. Averill, so long-term, what are you looking to do as far as ensuring that the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association it is not burglarized? Well, I was about to say frequently. That's not the case, right? Yeah, we have a call. Hello, good evening. This is Newsmaker Live. You're on the air.
I'm trying to get to Miss Averill.
Hi, good evening. Go ahead, please.
Miss Averill?
Yes, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll make it short. You might not remember people like me. My name is Joseph Michaud. We were...
Joe Michaud.
Mr. Michaud.
Yes,
we
man.
were students from Corinth, I believe, from 79, 80.
That's right, Joe.
Right. They sent us and we were there with you all and you all taught us so many things. We were doing the cooking for you all, but you showed us so many things. You even teach us how to write the braille. But we didn't continue. And to see that right now, right now I'm 51. I was about 17, 18 about that time. And look, now I'm 51 and I'm to see they're trying to bring you all down. I don't even know what to say. Because I know you have done so much. I mean, I'm not blind. I don't know if I'll be blind maybe in my 60s, 70s, but you all have done so much, and I wish somebody, well, including me, could put a hand so that you can continue to do what you have done for St. Lucia, or maybe for the world, I don't know, for so long, and keep the visually impaired alive just like us. Don't mind they are blind, but they have the same senses like us. So on that, I wish they would continue and try to leave it open and keep on your good works.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, man.
Earlier on, we're talking about ensuring that the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association is able to secure its premises.
Yes. You know, it's when things are already so hard and you really have to spend quite a bit of money on security. It's really not fair, you know. But we do not have a choice. We will engage. That's a way that corporate can help. Some security company can come to our assistance, and that we will certainly welcome that help. We cannot afford to pay the level of security which is required. At the moment, we do not have the funds to do that, the finance to do that. So we certainly are appealing to the community for support, and we will also not only appealing through this program, Tim, we will also write and approach people directly as well, and we hope that before long that the place will be much more secured.
Are you shocked that any individual would break into the headquarters of an organization of that nature?
Tim, they're breaking into the church, you know. They're not even afraid of maudissement, you know. And maudissement is a real scary thing. So they...
Good evening. Go ahead with your contribution, caller.
Yes, good evening, Tim.
Hi.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm okay, caller. How about you?
Good evening to your guest, Mr. Averill.
Hi, good evening, sir.
Yes, sir. Nice hearing about your good work, sir. I hope you keep it up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Just a suggestion. I know some time back they were having those telephones and those things to raise some funds. Have you ever thought of having something called like a blind-a-thon or something like that to raise funds to keep the organization going?
Somebody raised that point. In fact, somebody called me yesterday morning, a lady, and she raised that point actually. So we are considering it, sir, You know, it takes quite some heavy lifting, organizing and things like that.
I understand.
But yes, it's one of the many suggestions that we are considering.
Okay, that would be good. I mean, I would be able to assist. I would try to assist if any way possible. That would be good. Probably you could bring it out there and get people on board and have something like that.
Very
good. Keep the association going.
Well, if you can give us a call tomorrow, where you can give us your name and so on, and because we need manpower to do all of these things. The staff, they are pretty stretched, so we need manpower, volunteer support, and so on. That will be very helpful, sir.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, sir.
Okay, then.
Thank you so much for calling.
You're most welcome.
What about the association seeking to revamp itself? Very often we have of rebranding. We have using marketing tools to sell yourself, to sell whatever product that you have, so that there will be buy-in on the part of the St. Lucian public.
Yeah, this is something which is being seriously considered. We have been wrestling with the, people have been asking for a change of name, for example, because they say, well, because of it has welfare in the name, it gives a certain kind of,
We'll return to that issue in just a moment. We have a call. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
Right, good night, Mr. Israel.
Good night, sir.
Yeah, I'm listening to you all day, and something is coming to mind. Isn't there a national events committee organizing all sorts of programs, entertainment and this?
Events St. Lucia, Soleil.
Israel, I would like you making a suggestion to, negotiate something with this national
event committee.
Because, this is a genuine cause.
Very good point. Very good point, sir.
And don't preempt things. If suggestions are coming in, very, interesting suggestions are coming in, take it seriously and negotiate for the assistance you want, on the periphery.
Yes.
Not just that. You've already said a while ago that they're a bit stretched, and so you need volunteers who will help you to organize, and to negotiate with the National Events Committee on this matter. And
yes,
I'm sure
sir.
you'll get somewhere very significantly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling.
Very good idea, sir. Thank you.
Okay, but before we took the call, we're talking about possibly the association going through some kind of transformation or revamping.
Yes, for the rebranding and so on. What we have decided is that we wouldn't interfere with the legal foundation name of the association, but that we are looking at a brand name. Like, for example, the Royal Commonwealth Society for the Blind. They are still that on the legal books and the statutes, but they call themselves Sight Savers. It's something which is catchy, and so we are looking at something like that. And people out there, if you have any suggestion, you can send to us.
We have another contributor on the line. Good evening. Okay, we'll have that call. We continue to take your calls once again for my guest, Mr. Anthony Avril, who is the Executive Director of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association. But the way forward for the association, what do you envisage? Okay, we have a call. Hello, good evening. You're on the air?
Well, there's a will, there's a way, big man, okay?
Okay, thank you so much for calling.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
What do you envisage happening to the association within the next few weeks at least, short term?
Well, within the next few weeks, Tim, it's feverish because, as I said, we are launching this dollar drive, and it takes quite a lot of energy. We would be writing, calling, visiting, meeting people, and so on. So it takes a lot of energy. We have what we call a resource mobilization committee, and that committee is taking responsibility for that drive, and of course we are calling for volunteers. We're calling for people to assist us, and so it's going to be quite engaging. There are we have a number of internal issues. I saw something that came and talks about concerned blind members and so on, but it wasn't signed. So you have these things didn't say blind members, concerned members, but you have all of these things for us to deal with. But we are doing what we can, and we are pushing ahead, and because we know that is what we have to do in order to survive. So we are fighting.
Okay. We continue to take our calls once again. My guest this evening is Mr. Anthony Averill, Executive Director of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association. What is the main lesson you're drawing from this bad experience that the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association is going through right now?
The main lesson that I can draw from this time, it can happen to anybody at any time. No one is really, insulated from it, where to say that, well, no, man, that wouldn't happen to me, man, because no, it can happen to you at any time. So
there's been a suggestion also of late that probably the association, together with the likes of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, they should share in terms of the resources, in terms of the manpower.
Tim, the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association was instrumental in forming a number of other agencies in St. Lucia. The National Council for Older Persons, the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, and other networks. But Tim, it's people who are in these organizations. And the Caribbean have not been able to come together. It's an indication, because if people in a small island find it difficult to work together, far less in the wider region. There are huge issues. In fact, the name Anthony Averill is like the worst expletives when it comes to the current leadership of the NCPD.
Why is that so? Why is there so much discord among entities that's supposed to have the same mandate, looking after the interest of the disabled and vulnerable people?
Yeah, but you see, each of us have our own agenda. Anthony Averill stands for inclusive, and most other people stands for exclusive. So that they have a huge difference. You understand? I see us as persons with disabilities to be an integral part of the society. So I do not see us saying that this has to be, according to the Trinidadians, wheating and wheating only. If we need to practice what we preach. If we want to be included, whatever we do, we also have to include others as well. So there is a clash of philosophy.
Final comments from you, sir?
Tim, it's been hard, and but I must say I have to thank the people of St. Lucia for the response that we are getting. I talk about the $50, but I should also say, yesterday a gentleman walks in and made a donation of $2,500. And he didn't want to face the media and what have you. He's a prominent person here, but it's an indication that people are willing to help, and they will do what they can, and I say thank you. Thank you to you, St. Lucia. We need to stay the course, and if we do stay the course, we will prevail. We will prevail. I want to thank you, the media, as well, for giving us the opportunity to communicate with our people.
Okay, Mr. Anthony Averill, Executive Director of the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association, thank you so much for being my guest on this evening's Newsmaker Live. And to you, the viewers, thank you so much for contributing via your calls, and thank you for tuning in to another Newsmaker Live broadcast. If it's Wednesday, it's Newsmaker Live. Time now for the clip that peaked.
It is my esteemed pleasure to introduce Mr. and Mrs. Donald Trump. Mr. Donald! Oh my God! Mr. and Mrs. Trump, it's an honor to meet you. Ron said his client had a rich uncle, but Donald Trump.
I like keeping a low profile.
Hi, Hillary Banks.
Hey, Hillary.
You know, you look much richer in person.
Hey, Mr. Trump. Hey, how you doing? Will Smith. Hey, listen, you are getting a great house here. And this is quite a deal you're getting for it, too. Look, I'll tell you what. You want another 50 grand, I'll cut the grass for you every Saturday.
Look, folks, before we go too far, I've got something to tell you.
Excuse me, but I've got something to tell you first. Thank you for ruining my life.
Ashley!
What did you do?
Everybody's always blaming me for everything.
Once again, thank you so much for watching the broadcast. There's a very good evening. My name is Timothy Paul Young. See you next time, and good night.